Okay, we are at the Water Agency regular meeting on June 21st, 2021. The time is, well, I have 4:01. This meeting is being conducted pursuant to the provisions of the Governor's Executive Order N-29-20 and the orders of the Ventura County Public Health Officers issued March 20th, 2020, Stay Well at Home order. So I'm going to call the meeting to order at this time. Can we have a roll call? City Clerk.
Yes, sir. Members Bouchard?
Here.
Member Hernandez?
Here.
Member Perez?
Here.
Ex officio member Jacobson?
Here.
Vice Chair Dudley? Vice Chair Dudley does not appear to be with us at the moment. And Chair Rollins?
Here. City Clerk, do we have any public comment at this point in time?
No, sir. There's no public comments today for any of the agenda items.
Okay, so we have the agenda before us for the Water Agency. Can I have a recommendation for approval?
So moved. Hernandez.
I'll second. Jared Bouchard.
So shall we have a roll call for this then, City Clerk?
Yes, sir. Member Hernandez?
Yes.
Member Bouchard?
Yes.
Member Perez?
Yes.
Chair Rollins?
Yes.
And Vice Chair Dudley is absent for that roll call vote.
Okay, so now are there, I see that there are no presentations. We move on to the consent agenda, which includes the minutes of the Water Agency regular meeting, April 19th, 2021, and the cash disbursement report for April 14th, 2021 through June 14th, 2021. Can we have a roll call vote on that?
We need a motion in a second.
So do we have a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. So let's have a roll call vote.
Member Hernandez?
Yes.
Member Bouchard?
Yes.
Member Perez? Chair Rollins?
Yes.
And again, Vice Chair Dudley is absent for that roll call vote.
Okay. So now we move on to item number 3, public hearing, adoption of the 2020 Urban Water Management Plan Resolution. And that report will be given by Mr. Villafano.
Good afternoon, Chair Rollins and board. This afternoon, we got, it's recommended that the PHWA board at the close of the public hearing adopt the attached 2020 Urban Water Management Plan resolution for management of PHWA water resources. Note that the plan has been posted on the city website for review since May 7th. Appropriate agencies were notified by certified mail, and public notice was placed twice in the local newspaper. Background and analysis. Every 5 years, the California Department of Water Resources require water suppliers update its urban water management plan. Every urban water supplier that provides over 3,000 acre-feet annually or serves more than 3,000 urban connections is required to assess the reliability of its water sources over a 20-year planning horizon and report its progress towards a 20% reduction per capita urban water consumption. Additionally, PHWA is required to submit a water supply contingency plan, which outlines how the PHWA will respond to various stages of a drought or water shortage. The Department of Water Resources staff then reviews the submitted plans to make sure they have completed the requirements and submits a report to the legislature summarizing the status of the plans. On January 19th, 2021, PHWA awarded a contract to Michael Nunley and Associates to prepare the PHWA 2020 Urban Water Management Plan update. The plan updates the goals of the Urban Water Management Planning Act and provides information regarding PHWA water service area, water supply demands, recycled water use, water shortage contingency plan. In addition, the plan provides a summary of existing demand and management measures and recommendations. The plan concludes that PHWA meets the requirements of the California Urban Water Management Planning Act, and it has adequate water resources to cover the expected growth through multiple years of drought. The Department of Water Resources will be sent a copy of the completed Urban Water Management Plan for final approval. The action, if taken, fiscal impact, the action, if taken as recommended, will have no fiscal impact at this time. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to our consultant, MKN, which will have a PowerPoint presentation and will be able to answer questions specific to the Urban Water Management Plan update. And that would be Cindy. Are you there, Cindy?
Hi, Don. Yes, I'm here. Rob Lepore from MCAN will be sharing his screen with the presentation. So he's on the call right now.
Yeah, I was having some internet issues, but I think everything is working now. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. It doesn't look like I'm able to share my screen.
Oh, I can share my screen, Rob.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, it's just coming up with an error message.
I wasn't aware that you guys were sharing the screen. I can give either of you the duties that will give you permission to do that.
Yeah, it didn't let me share my screen either. You can probably give the duties to Rob.
You should have that access right now.
Okay, that'd be great. Okay, looks like I got it now. Thank you for letting us present on the Urban Water Management Plan. We've been working with the Water Authority over the past several months to complete the 2020 update. And my name is Rob Lepore, and I'm a water resource planner with MKN. And Cindy's an assistant engineer that has worked on this Urban Water Management Plan and multiple others for other local agencies. And so the agenda tonight is just a brief introduction about the process, the objectives of the plan, a brief overview of the existing water system and service area. A major part of the Urban Water Management update is population and demand projections. And then also looking at, with the demand projections, also looking at future supply availability to be able to serve those demands. And then also agencies are now required by DWR to also have a water shortage contingency plan, which are the policy measures for agencies to help their customers to reduce water usage or supplement, during drought conditions. And why do agencies do urban water management plans? They're required from DWR and in the water code to be done every 5 years. And they're developed based on the best information available at the time. And every 5 years, DWR asks agencies to kind of re-review their population projections and demand projections, and if there's been any changes to their water system or the customers they're serving. In addition, this helps provide information for water supply assessments. So when you have developers looking to develop in an existing water service area, the first documents that they will usually look at are the urban water management plans, because that will provide background about existing demands, future demands, and supply availability. And three, this also, the urban water management plan, we had several agencies that we coordinated with the Water Authority on developing a plan. So it's a great document for regional agencies to plan their water resources. And DWR, as you're developing the plan, they provide a guidebook that is a step-by-step document for each section of the plan, so that they can compare information consistently amongst agencies, and it provides a overall guideline on how to complete your urban water management plan update. And there's also a critical component in integrated regional plans. So the urban water management plan process, we started the project, I think it was back in early fall, and identified, sent out notifications to agencies when we first started the project that the Water Authority would start developing an urban water management plan. We had several draft deliverables. There's 10 chapters to the urban water management plan, and so we provided the first 6, had the Water Authority review, and then had project meetings to go over those chapters. With respect to the big notification timeline for the urban water management plans is a 60-day notification, and those notifications went out in April, at the beginning of April, so that we could post for the public workshop and identify to the public, the cities and counties, give them enough time to be able to review the documents prior to the public meeting. And then
I have a question. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I have a question.
Okay.
In the notification letters, was the PHWA board included on that list, or any of the city council members included under the notification?
It would be so the notification was for the public, cities and counties,
but not the boards.
That
have to approve the plan.
Right. Well, I don't. That would be through the Water Authority staff to be able to provide. And so these are these are other agencies outside of the district or outside of the Water Authority for review.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry.
Oh, no problem. And so just a brief water system overview. Port Hueneme Water Authority serves the city of Port Hueneme.
Am I the only one that sees that? Am I here?
I don't hear anything either.
Yeah, he's frozen.
I think you cut off Rob. I know he was having some technical difficulties with his internet right now, but if everyone can hear me, I can go ahead and we can wait for Rob's internet to stabilize.
Okay, thank you.
It'll be a tag team, huh?
Yeah. Yes. So Port Hueneme Water Agency, they provide water to the following agencies: the City of Port Hueneme, Channel Islands Beach Community Services District, as well as the Naval Base of Ventura County, which includes both Port Hueneme and Port Magoo. Sorry. Oh, let's see. I can share my screen if I am given access to really quickly, just because I think Rob.
Just a moment there, Cindy. Hang on just a second.
Thank you. Sorry about the technical difficulties.
No worries. Member Hernandez, I just wanted to let you know that the Navy was a part of some of the review and discussion during development, as some of the information that they needed for the plan was a part of our requirements. So we were a part of that as well, just to let you know that there was somebody, ex officio on the board that attended those meetings. Over.
Okay, thank you.
So it seems that Rob is back.
Oh, sorry about that. I don't know what's going on with my internet today. I apologize.
No worries. I just got through the first bullet, but you can go on with the rest. I think we can hear you now.
All right, you can see my screen okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, great. Sorry about that. So brief water system overview. Port Hueneme provides water service to the city of Port Hueneme, Channel Islands Beach Community Services District, and the naval base, Ventura County. Two sources of water include imported water from Cayugas Municipal and also groundwater from United Water Conservation District. And then for their own facilities is the brackish water reclamation demonstration. With respect to population estimates, we worked with the city of Port Hueneme, Channel Islands Beach, CSD, and the naval base to get their specific population.
He's frozen again.
Yeah, I think.
Maybe we should just let Cindy do it.
Yeah.
Suggestions?
Rob, you're cutting out again still.
Oh, man.
I can go ahead and just share my screen because I think sometimes it'll zone in and out. And I think for questions, you can probably help us chime in, but.
So Cindy, you can lead the conversation.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
let
then
me.
Rob can kind of supplement. Maybe.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, right now that Rob's screen is still up, hopefully it stays like that at least. So as Rob was mentioning, each entity provided their own population projections as well as, of course. Okay, let's try this.
Charles, can you let Cindy?
Yeah, Cindy,
have the screen?
Cindy has
Okay.
access, so you can go
Yeah,
ahead.
I have access. Can everyone see the presentation?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry about that. Let's see. From beginning. Okay, can you see just the presentation, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so back again to the population. I apologize for the technical difficulties. So each entity provided their population estimates, not only for the year 2020, but projected for the next 20 years up until 2045. So as we can see, we are expected to see an increase in population in all of the agencies that PHWA provides water for in the next 20 years. Now going into our 2020 water demands by type. So as we can see here, we have each of the user types that the agency provides water to. So approximately 87% of the water demands are sales to each of the respective agencies. Another small portion goes to retail demand use for agencies that are usually primarily wholesalers, but that they do have a small volume of retail sales, which includes the Ventura County Game Preserve and Agriman. And as well, we also take into account any leaks and brine that go into the city system in order to accurately project, in order to accurately analyze their 2020 entire water portfolio. Moving on to our future water demands within the service area. So in 2019, PHWA completed their brackish water reclamation demonstration facility master plan, and this is where the majority of the water demands were updated. There were some updates to this table from the master plan based off of current reports that were updated, so such as the Channel Islands master plan. So aside from that value right there, all these other projections were previously noted to the Port Hueneme Water Agency. So as we can see here, from 2025 to 2045, there will be an increase in water demand from 4,494 acre feet to 5,946 acre feet. And moving on to our projected supplies and availability. So as Rob mentioned earlier, PHWA receives groundwater and imported water from United Water Conservation District, as well as Cayugas Municipal Water District. And as we can see here, these allocations are projected to decrease over the next 20 years. So especially for groundwater, we will be seeing a vast decrease in the allocation that PHWA receives from them. PHWA is currently seeking additional water supply sources in order to accommodate this deficit that we're seeing here. But as we can see here, the agency will be seeing a decrease in water supplies within the next 20 years.
A quick question, please.
Yes.
So I noticed you have from United Water Conservation District numbers, which are associated with the contractual obligation.
Mm-hmm.
The groundwater number, though, continues at 174 acre feet from now until the end of the study period.
Mm-hmm.
What is that associated with? My guess is that it's associated with naval-based Ventura County's pumping.
That is actually associated with, so we received a comment from Fox Canyon Groundwater Management Authority, and they, in 2019, they provided a new ordinance that allows PHWA to have this allocation. So as Rob mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, we prepared these tables and results based off of the best available information. So as of now, with the contract, with the ordinance that Fox Canyon has in place that began in October of 2019. As of now, this allocation is not subject to change, but however, they might have the authority in the future to alter this allocation.
Okay, maybe I need to ask the question differently.
Mm-hmm.
The water from United comes from the same basins. It comes from the Oxnard Basin.
Yes.
While it's still pumped groundwater, why do we have this associated 174 acre feet number that does not reduce with everything else?
Oh, I see what you mean.
Because the basins are under the same cutback requirements
mm-hmm.
that the United Water Conservation District one is, and it's not huge. I'm just trying to understand where we came from.
Yeah, so the allocations in that first from United Water Conservation District, we assume those based off of the previous agreement or the previous agreements that were instated when we prepared this report. I understand what you're saying, that they are pumping from the same they're pumping from the same basin. However, this newer allocation, this was brought to our attention in the review process from Fox Canyon. So I'm not sure if they have their separate coordination as well with United Water Conservation District, but this new allocation seems to be, I'm not sure if it's from a new well or a new agreement that has been brought upon, but it just came to the knowledge of the agency back in October of last year. So I'm not sure if a new agreement would need to be put in place in order to either combine these supplies and just have it as one total. But as of right now, based off of the information we received, we have them noted as separately based off of their contracts right now.
Okay, so maybe one of the staff members can answer, is the 174 acre feet the variance request that the agency is putting forward, and perhaps that is where that number came from?
Hello, Jared.
Mr. Bellicano?
I'm going to have to research this. I do not know where that number came from. Possibly Mr. Martinez, do you?
Yeah, the variance number is 123 acre feet per year, so it is not the 174.
And member Bouchard, it doesn't associate anything with the naval base either. We will be discussing with United and the GMA board at some point with PHWA regarding the Navy allocation, which cannot be assessed the fee, nor can it decrease, as we all know from the ordinance discussions and all that. So again, it wasn't a part of the Navy, but we will be discussing that with Fox Canyon and United at some point. Over.
Okay, I appreciate it. I was just curious, and the reason why I thought maybe it was the Navy is exactly what you said, and I know the Navy has continued to pump certain wells, and I wasn't sure if that was the number from those wells during the base period that would not be subject to reduction. So
I don't know. You know, it's close to, I don't know the exact numbers off the top of my head for, we have one well on Port Hueneme. I think it's less than 174 per year, but that might be where that Fox Canyon gave that information to MKN. Over.
okay, thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to derail the conversation, just was curious.
No, good questions.
And no worries. Okay, so moving forward, okay, sorry, one last one. So in addition to analyzing the supply availability in a normal year, we also looked into analyzing these during multiple dry years. So in the past couple of years that we analyzed based off of precipitation levels, the supply and demands have not fluctuated to take into account the precipitation levels, meaning no matter how much or how little it rained, the city was still able to keep the same supply allocations from United as well as Callegas Municipal Water District. So as we can see here, going towards 2040, we will begin to see a deficit in which demands start to exceed supplies. So we recommend that by 2035, the agencies begin to seek additional sources or finalize agreements to seek to provide additional sources to be able to meet demands in 2040 and 2045 as well. So because of these multiple dry years, we recommend that those additional supplies are sought out in order to successfully meet demands up until 2045.
I'm sorry, is it okay for me to ask a question, Chair Rollins?
Yes, I'll have a follow-up one. So you have the floor right now.
Okay. So when we did these demand projections, obviously the groundwater piece is pretty finite, right? When we look at when we look at the reductions that we're facing under the current allocation scheme, I'm curious about the state water supply piece or Callegas water.
Mm-hmm.
Does that assume the full delivery of state water project water, or for example, in this year, we can only expect 5% of the full allocation delivery? How were these numbers calculated? Is it assumed on the full contracted amount?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the full contracted amount was assumed.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
So my follow-up question would be, while they're reducing our water supply, are they also reducing Callegas water supply so that they won't be able to give out as much water because they supplement us right now? Mm-hmm. Will they not be able to give out as much water as we move forward? And then what other water supplies are we considering going for, assuming that we won't have enough water from the groundwater or perhaps even Callegas?
So yes, these supply projections were calculated based on the assumption that Callegas does not alter or further alter their allocation within the next 20 years. So you bring up a good point that that could potentially change if they also see themselves in a water shortage condition. I know at a couple of the review meetings, Pete and some other folks were discussing some of the potential projects that they had going on. So I don't know if Pete or someone else from the city of Port Hueneme or PHWA contact that we have been working with would like to give a couple of details on some additional sources that they're currently seeking.
Right, this is Don. This is a topic that frequently comes up at Public Works Directors meetings, monthly meetings, and all of the directors realize and support that it's got to be a regional solution. And part of it is projects that will recharge the basin so that we just don't go strictly on a water diet. We need projects that provide water to United to recharge the basin so we can maintain a higher yield. And those are projects that have been discussed. That's also part of what Fox Canyon is looking at. And hopefully those projects will come online in the next 10 to 15 years and help offset the reductions so that the reductions are not as steep. I know Pete Martinez and I have advocated this together when we've been at water meetings. So that's really what needs to be done regionally. And it is being discussed. And I know my fellow public works directors are all supportive of that. So that's where we are now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you both. And now we will be, last but not least, discussing the water shortage contingency plan. So this plan is a part of the 2020 Urban Water Management Plan update, but it is expected to be adopted as a separate standalone document. This is beneficial in two ways because the agency can enact this at any time when they feel water shortage emergencies are going to take place or are taking place. But it is also beneficial because this means that the water shortage contingency plan can be amended as a separate document without having to amend the entire urban water management plan. So as a standalone document, this plan must include 6 shortage levels that distinguish from shortages in the normal year and distinguish from normal reliability. So as we can see here, a lot of these are going to be imposed by groundwater means. So in Fox Canyon Groundwater Management Association. So this because PHWA is not a retail agency, they're a wholesale agency. They cannot themselves fully explain and enact to their purveyors exactly how the demand management measures must be met, but they have the right to say the allocation will be decreased by X amount at this time, and you all have to basically see how it would fit accordingly to your respective agency and go from there. So in accordance with the California Water Code 10632, PHWA will conduct an annual water demand assessment by July 1st of every year in order to analyze current demands and supplies and to be able to assess these needs as they see fit. And all of the other demand reduction actions for each of these corresponding stages are included in the water shortage contingency plan, which are also available online, as well as the urban water management plan. So now I would like to open up the floor.
Yes, Mr. Bouchard, do we have any questions from the board at this point?
I'm sorry, I was going to ask a question maybe on that particular slide.
Okay.
So I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this appropriately and make it meaningful for discussion. The water agency is a contract associated agency that formed a joint powers authority. And the statement that in some way PHWA will conduct a demand reduction process, I've got to be honest, I have not read the urban water management plan, which goes back to Director Hernandez's question earlier. Did we evaluate when we developed these demand reduction actions for each stage? Did we evaluate as part of that process the contractual obligations of each agency or contractual obligation of the agency to the different retail customers, i.e. capital percentage share basis, how the contract may impact those things, or was this a pretty blanketed thing that just said, hey, you're going to provide what does the language say, I guess is the question. that if there needs to be a 40% reduction, is that a 40% reduction against yesterday's use, against today's use, or 40% reduction against your capital right to the agency water supply? That's the question.
So if I'm understanding this correct, you're asking if these percent reductions are going to be applied to specific contractual like volumes per se for each of these agencies, or if there's a different type of, I'm guessing like volume or something specified in the plan.
Yeah, so I mean, the only one I'm most familiar with is the agency for whom I sit on the board for. Is their allocation from the plant has a specific number, which is, I think, 1,065 or 1,035 acre feet of water. And Pete, correct me please, whichever one those is right, is correct, for delivery of water from the plant, which associates to a 15%. We'll talk about that in the budget thing later, 15% of our fixed costs in the plant. The agency itself, the Beach District, has not used during the allocation period. That 15%, they've been historically closer to 11%. So where do these numbers come from? The reduction number is where my curiosity, or where the question comes from. Is it, if it's a 20% reduction, is it 20% against the 2005 to 14 base period of what the allocations that are in this plan, this urban water management plan, are based on, or is it a 20% reduction against your capital right to it? I'm just curious because we're being asked to adopt this and vote in favor of it, and it has impacts to other things. So not sure how the evaluation occurred here, and I'm just asking the question.
So this plan would only be enacted if and when the Port Hueneme Water Agency would see themselves in a water shortage emergency of some sort. So assuming, going off of that assumption, in the plan itself right now, it's simply stated that this reduction will be applied to their entire supply, meaning that whatever is currently contracted for each individual purveyor, those reductions would be taken, the reduction would be taken from the supply as a whole, and then each allocation towards the city of Port Hueneme, Channel Islands, and the Navy would be reduced accordingly. The city does have, the Port Hueneme Water Agency does have the opportunity to amend this plan at any time. So if and when the agency would like to amend this in the future, if they are seeing some other things, I know you mentioned that on average, some of the agencies that they're currently supplying water for aren't either using the entire allocation that they're that they're contracted to receive so far. So they can either choose to be more specific with this and distinguish that they would like to include a specific percentage or volume reduction for each agency. But as of now, these percentages are applied to the supply as a whole.
Director Rollins, you mind if I follow up?
You may do so.
I appreciate that explanation. I'm not sure that I'm still clear, because it's important. As the start of this presentation said, one of the things that happens here is developers within the different agencies that are part of this Joint Powers Authority will look at this document and assume it and say, hey, this urban water management plan says you have this available. I think it's an important piece of it that we understand how these things get applied. While I am optimistic that the region as a whole will solve the groundwater piece of this, that was the most stark reduction that we saw. I'm very optimistic that we're going to. through regional projects. And Cindy, this isn't, I wouldn't expect you to answer this question, so please don't take it any other way than I'm just saying it's important that we evaluate that and we understand what it is we're saying here, because if it's of the contracted amount for each of the individual agencies here, that is a starkly different question than the 05 to 14 base period question that the allocations are arrived at. It's really important, and I'm a little uncomfortable without us understanding those things moving forward with the adoption of this, because it has significant impacts to every one of us. And you know, developers, I would hate to see the city have a developer come in and say, hey, I looked at your urban water management plan, and then the city have to answer it differently because the allocation plan from the GMA affected it differently. You know, the beach district is in a unique situation that our growth is very, very limited, right? Very limited. It's tourist related. It's not development related. So I think the plan, from what I've seen in the presentation, is very well put together, but I think some of these questions and the assumptions we're making, I'm not sure that we've asked the right questions or provided MKN the necessary information for us to adopt a plan that we're going to have a large amount of the public looking at today that has a lot of variables that may impact it and how it relates to our relationship contractually as PHWA members. So I'm not sure that I have a lot of guidance on that, besides that we really need to look at those things and say, how do we coordinate the allocation issues that are put out in here and accurately stated with the long-term planning, and then this particular water shortage contingency? Who bears that burden, right? I'm gonna just, you know, early on in the slides, it showed PHWA, or excuse me, the beach district using somewhere around 450 acre feet of water today, okay? For those of you that are on the city council, think about that. We have not only met from the original piece of it, we've met over a 60% reduction, which would say under this, if I understand it correctly, we bear no burden, zero burden. That may be the right answer, but I'm not sure we all understand how that gets put into play. That's my question and comment.
Member Burchard, let me add some clarification here. Tonight, we're asking you to adopt the Urban Water Management Plan update. The water, as Cindy spoke about, the water shortage contingency plan is a standalone plan. We do not have a resolution tonight for you to approve to adopt this. I will be coming back to the board in July with a resolution to adopt the water shortage contingency plan. And between now and then, we can answer some of those questions, I believe. Cindy?
I was going to say, Mr. Villafano, I'm looking at the agenda, and it says recommendation is to adopt the resolution of the Port Wine, adopting the plan. So we're not going to be adopting it then tonight, or?
No, the Urban Water Management update, but not the water, as Cindy said it, and please step in, Cindy, this is a standalone resolution, is it not?
Yes, so as we see here on the slide, the water shortage contingency plan does have a small section in the overall urban water management plan. However, it is a standalone document. So as Don mentioned, the water shortage contingency plan gets adopted separately from the urban water management plan. The urban water management plan itself contains the information up until this slide that we presented. And this is where we outline the agency's deficiencies and what they hope to do to combat these issues in the future. However, once we go into the water shortage contingency plan and these specific actions and reduction levels, as Don mentioned, this will get adopted as a separate standalone document. So as we can see here, there's obviously input from other agencies that they'd like to see further specified. So we can work with Don and Mike and David, who we were working on this plan with, to incorporate some of these more specific details that you all would like to be seen in these plans, to convey a more specific and a clear pathway of who or when or who basically gets their allocation reduced in the case of a water shortage emergency. So to clarify, the only thing that the agency has asked to adopt tonight is the urban water management plan, not this water shortage contingency plan.
I will be coming back in July. And between that time, we can work on this and hopefully answer the questions you have, Mr. Burchard.
Okay, so tell me if I understand this right. We're gonna, as we have to reduce over the next 20, 30 years, won't that affect, as like from a city council standpoint, whether we approve any additional developments? Or it shows that we're going to be increasing population, but we're going to be reducing the amount of water with an increased population. So, I mean, I know like in other places, like I'll give you an example. When I was in Cambria, they limit their development based on the fact that they don't have enough water. And so is that something that we're going to have to be knowledgeable or understand as we approve future developments, be it commercial or residential?
Well, I believe if you looked at the slides, we begin approaching a water deficit, Cindy. I believe it's in 2035, is that correct?
Yes, so in 2035, we start seeing a smaller increase, but the actual deficit begins in 2040.
So by 2040, and as Jared was optimistic, hopefully regionally, we're going to be solving some of those problems with some sort of recycled water. That's what we're hoping for. That's what we need to do. And it has to be done not just by one agency, it has to be a regional effort by all the water agencies in Ventura County. So that's really what needs to be done, so that we don't have to just throttle back development, that we find those other sources of water to make up for it.
Okay. Does any of the board have any other questions at this point?
I think Misty and someone else have raised their hands.
Yeah, I can only see you right now. So Misty.
Oh, Misty and Laura have raised their hands.
Member Misty.
Hi, yes, thank you. This might be an ignorant question, but with all of this water shortage that's coming up, and that it has been for many years, I know at one point in time, California was investing in and has in desalination plants, and they were supposed to have 10 more. By now, they were hoping to have 10 more with a total of like 21, I think, but for whatever reason, that hasn't happened. But why has that not been checked into? I know it's an expensive way, but in the long term, what I read that it's a more efficient and cost worthy in the long run.
It is a very expensive project, and it's a very laborious project. But first, to add to the desalination question, typical desalination is ocean-based intakes and outfalls. which have taken on the order of 15 plus years to permit. And therefore, their very, very deep pockets have to be able to afford that. The brackish water project that United has been proposing with support of the Navy is something that would actually be extracting brackish water from impaired basins at Magoo and in Oxnard. It's right near the trench on Point Magoo Air Base. That project is actually a very viable source for supplying ag as well as M&I future water, and hopefully alleviating some of the pressure that we have. It's a long road that we have. We've been briefing a lot of different people. There's been a lot of different community groups that have been involved. And actually tomorrow morning, myself and Captain Chisholm, who is our commanding officer of Naval Base of Ventura County, along with Rizzio at United, who's the general manager, will be presenting to Congresswoman, I'm blanking, oops. I better not do this tomorrow morning. Brownlee, excuse me, thank you. I had Brownie, and I'm like, that's wrong. Anyway, Congresswoman Brownlee's office tomorrow morning. Her staffers are interested in the project and understanding how we can potentially move forward and how they can support this project. So it is gaining traction right now. The GMA is actually one of those that's trying to understand this project more. And it is kind of a long shot, but it is definitely something that I think would support this basin quite a bit. From the Navy's point of view, we don't want to be a burden to the basin or anybody else. Therefore, this project would actually allow us to basically get our allocation back in the hands of M&I and ag users, as opposed of us being a burden on the groundwater users because of our Federal Reserve water rights requirements that were identified in the ordinance. So it's definitely something that United is going to be bringing to the public more often, and they will likely give a brief to PHWA in the future. But at this point, I think it's definitely one of those things that we should consider as a potential short-term viable option with full construction completing at the end of 2027. Over.
I'm glad you guys are thinking ahead. It's good. So do we have any other questions?
Yes, I do, Chairman Rollins. This is Laura Hernandez speaking.
Yes.
Thank you. First of all, I didn't have a lot of time to review the urban water management plan, and I had less time to look at the contingency plan. But from what I noted, there were scenarios in these plans, hazard threat scenarios, which would trigger activation of the contingency plan. Am I correct in that?
Yes.
Okay. And why is that not part of this conversation? Is there a reason we're not talking about those scenarios today, or making any reference to those? Because it's the impression I think people are getting, if they've not looked at the plan, that this is based, this contingency plan is just based on progressive years and development and changes in population, rather than natural hazards like earthquake, tsunami, floods, where we might have a water shortage situation.
So in the water shortage contingency plan that's available online, there is a section that answers your concerns about earthquakes, tsunamis. I believe landslides and other natural disasters are outlined on there. For the purposes of the presentation tonight, where we were trying to convey as much information without trying to go through the entire plan, which is close to 100 pages, those were not included. However, those scenarios were analyzed in the full water shortage contingency plan. So like you said, those would be the emergencies that we would have to enact this plan almost immediately, so that consumers can still get their allocations of what can still get a clean water supply in the case of these emergencies. Like we mentioned tonight, we will only be adopting the urban water management plan,
Right.
and at the next meeting, the water shortage contingency plan will be up for review. So at that later meeting in July, I can include a more detailed explanation in the presentation to go over some of the factors that we took into place based off of the county's current multi-hazard mitigation plan, and a couple of the other factors that we used in that section of the report.
Okay. All right, so I just wanted to do a disclosure here that in my other life, I write hazard mitigation plans, and I know that there's a public outreach component that's required as part of those plans. Is there a similar outreach component with the urban water management plan?
These are part of the agency's demand management measures, which do include public outreach. So a couple of these measures have been noted in the urban water management plan as well. These aren't as strictly regulated by the California Water Code. They don't necessarily require every agency to do X amount of public outreach events or have, you know, flyers or informational booths at community events or things of that sort. They don't regulate those per se. They're just summarized in one of the chapters of the urban water management plan as a whole. So it's kind of all bundled all into one.
Okay. The reason I say that, because I noticed Mr. Villafana had informed me that we only had one public comment, and that's not uncommon at all, with especially hazard mitigation plans. People tend not to really pay too much attention to these plans unless we aggressively go out there and beat the pavement and get people to really look at the plans. So.
Yeah. And that's why the California Water Code requires that these plans be advertised in the newspaper. At least this cycle was increased to 2 times prior to the public to tonight's public hearing. So I think that is their way of trying to get the public more involved. However, in the couple of these that we've presented this cycle, and I know Rob has seen this in years previous in the other urban water management plans he's prepared and presented for, that you're correct, not many people become too engaged in this unless they're either active parties or they see something that they'd like to be changed.
Yeah. And then just finally, I just wanted to express my concern. I'm embarrassed. Part of me is embarrassed that I just noticed this plan on the agenda. I didn't know that it had been posted on our website. A reminder would have been really helpful since we were dark for a good part of April. I don't know how many other board members missed this, but I didn't. It was not on my radar, and I apologize for that. I don't always go to the city's website unless I'm looking for something specific, and I didn't learn about this plan until just last week. So I tried to review it as best I could, but I certainly would appreciate more time. I just know that this is due July 1st, so not much time is really going to be feasible, it appears.
And I will echo that sentiment.
I don't know how many other board members were able to review the plan. Chairman Director Rollins.
I did not I don't look at the website on a regular basis, so I just saw it from the written material that we got a few days ago.
So you did not have a chance to review the plan either?
Oh, yeah, I went through it over the weekend a little bit. Yeah, I mean it's a large plan, along with that and the city council and everything else that we got, you know, a few days ago.
Okay.
My apologies to the board for not doing a personal outreach, more thorough outreach to you. I apologize for that.
Okay.
So at this time, do we have any other questions or comments from the board or the association? Okay, so we have a recommendation before us to adopt a resolution of the Port Hueneme Water Agency adopting the 2020 Urban Water Management Plan for management of the Port Hueneme Authorization water resources. Do we have a motion to adopt? Well, I will move that we adopt the resolution. Do we have a second? So if there is no second, the motion will die. What happens now then, Mr. Villafano, as far as time restraints?
I'm not sure. I have to check with MKN. Cindy, possibly you could answer that.
So in order to meet the July 1st deadline by the Department of Water Resources, this does need to all be in their hands by July 1st. I do understand that these adoptions need to take place at an official meeting. However, I'm trying to get Rob Lepore back on. He is our more senior water resource planner on here to see if he has any, okay, he's trying to get back on to see if he has any recommendations for how to proceed. There is no penalty in place by DWR to submit this plan by July 1st. However, if the agency in the future were to apply for a grant of some sort or other additional help, that is when they begin to look at if the agency has their urban water management plan on file and things of that sort. So there's nothing, that would strike against Port Hueneme Water Agency in this occasion. However, in the future, if other resources from the Department of Water Resources are needed, then they would begin to ask some questions on why we didn't meet the deadlines and whatnot. But I'm trying to get Rob back on the, yes, Jared?
Is there a extension request process that maybe doesn't put us in that situation? I just feel like in hearing from the other board members like myself, I've not fully reviewed it, which is where my hesitancy comes from. Is there an extension process that maybe leaves us in a little better situation and we can, I think we have a July 9th, if I'm not mistaken, special board meeting coming forward?
Currently, they are not accepting any extensions. They were a little late on getting us their final guidebook out, which we assumed would come with an extension because these guidebooks are usually out by January, February latest. However, this year it wasn't released till March, April. But as of now, they are not requiring, or they are not allowing submissions for extensions.
Member Burchard, I am not sure, and possibly Kevin Spalding, if he's in here, can answer it. I'm not sure you can adopt a resolution at a special meeting. I think it has to be the regularly scheduled July meeting. So, Mr. Spalding, are you on board here today?
I am on the meeting, Mr. Villafana. A resolution to be adopted at a special meeting is fine. The problem runs into when a local agency attempts to adopt an ordinance at a special meeting, and that can't be accomplished under the government code. So
we could revisit this on the special meeting. I believe, though, that's a closed session meeting, is it not? So we would have. I believe that meeting is a closed session meeting. I believe we could amend. We'd have to discuss with the agency clerk, Ms. Bugskemper, about the whether or not we have the ability to amend the agenda notice to cover an open meeting item.
All right. May I ask a question?
Yes.
I'm wondering if this is a living document, such that if this was adopted today or resolved today, that it would be a living document that could be addressed. All the board members' comments could be then addressed in a amendment that would be provided in July, i.e. Adopt the resolution today for the urban water management plan, and then provide a update of per any board members' comments within the first weeks of July. Therefore, we meet the DWR requirements as well as the board member requirements, knowing that we are going to have to address potential comments from the board upon final review. Over.
Yes, these plans are allowed to be amended, which is another reason why I mentioned earlier that the water shortage contingency plan as a separate document can be amended by itself as well. So if that is another possibility, regardless of the board's comments and other comments that people may have, the state might also have additional comments that they might need us to address anyways and have us resubmit, and those wouldn't be penalized if they are brought up after the July 1st deadline. So yes, this can be amended and re-uploaded and resubmitted to the state library as well as to the to DWR for them to have on their file.
So then after we hear the water contingency plan in the next meeting, we can make amendments to the initial one that we would, if we chose to approve it today.
Correct.
Well,
Okay.
if Mr. Jacobson, Director Jacobson would like to put that into a motion, I would be willing to second that.
I'm not allowed to.
Oh, you're not?
I'm not. I'd love
Okay.
to. I've been wanting to second
or maybe we
something for
can ask,
2 years.
Okay, maybe we can ask the chair to amend his original motion.
I'm happy to make a motion to that effect. Make sure that I capture it. That way staff can move ahead. We can get it filed properly. Not sure how to word it properly here based on everything that I heard, but let me try and I'll make a motion to approve the urban water management plan subject to board revision with, in particular, the water supply shortage contingency plan. I think
it has really nothing to do with the water shortage contingency plan. It's really, we want to adopt today with the provision that we will be able to amend it at our next meeting, provide amendments to it at our next meeting.
So
I appreciate that comment. I guess what I'm trying to get to is there were connectivity between certain pieces in the document that we're adopting today and the water supply contingency plan, as you appropriately pointed out, that what triggers it, how does all this happen? So I guess maybe the broader recommendation is better as you made it. So any suggestions from staff and how you'd like to hear this come forward? Christy's probably sitting over there like banging her head against the wall going, what are you guys doing here?
I think I just think
can we adopt the resolution with the understanding that we can make amendments to the next meeting?
I'm not really comfortable with the understanding that we can. I think the intent is that there will be amendments. So and if I'm hearing the rest of the board that the same way, that we want an opportunity to review it and make suggestions to that effect, and there will probably be revisions.
Member Bouchard, I have a motion as to approve the urban water management plan subject to board revision. I do believe that encompasses exactly what you're saying, even if it is a little bit broader. It will give you the opportunity to do revisions to that urban water management plan.
Thank you, Christy. That's my motion.
I second.
Okay, can we have a roll call at this point?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Member Bouchard?
Yes.
Member Hernandez?
Yes.
Member Perez?
Yes.
Chair Rollins?
Yes.
And Vice Chair Dudley is absent for the record.
Okay. So now we're going to move on to business items. And that's number 4, the Brackish Water Reclamation Demonstration Facility Operational Report by Mr. Villafano.
Again, good afternoon, and good news in the months of, this is a 2-month operational report. For both April and May, the plant operated fully for both months, meaning that the silt density index was below the threshold of 3 at all times. In April of 2021, we used 3.9 million gallons per day. That was more than we used in March of this year. In March, we used 3.54 million gallons per day. Last April, we used 3.11 million gallons per day. In April, United Water supplied approximately 86% of our water, and Cayugas supplied 14%. In May of this year, we used 4.11 million gallons, which was more than we used in April, which was 3.9. Last May, we used 3.77 million gallons per day. And in May, United Water supplied approximately 84% of our water, and Cayugas supplied approximately 16% of our water. Even with this increase, slight increase of water usage, we are still below our water allocations. From United, we've used approximately 41% of our allocation from United and approximately 13% of our allocation for state water or Cayugas water. Are there any questions?
Yeah, just a comment. It's interesting, as we move out of the pandemic, we seem to be using more water now.
Well, there's probably a number of factors. I think warmer weather, yes, people are out and about, and so I'm sure water usage is going up. But the good news, as I said, we're still well within our water allocations.
Right. Well, thank you. So there's a recommendation to receive and file this report. Do we have any questions from the board at this point before we do that? Okay. So there's a recommendation to receive and file this report. We don't need a vote for that, right?
Sir, due to COVID and just being online for Zoom, we are taking a roll call and a motion even just for receive and files.
Okay. So let's have a vote. City Clerk, do you?
Is there a motion to receive and file the report?
Yeah.
Move to receive and file.
Do we have a second? Second.
Okay, and we'll conduct a roll call vote. Member Bouchard?
Yes.
Chair Rollins?
Yes.
Member Hernandez?
Yes.
Member Perez?
Yes.
And Vice Chair Dudley is absent again for the record. Motion passes.
Okay. So now we're going on to item number 5, which is the authorization to enter into a maintenance agreement with Macro Automatics Corporation for the SCADA replacement. Mr. Villafano.
Mr. Chair, I'll be presenting this particular item.
Okay.
I'm David Birch. I'm the General Water Manager for Port Hueneme Water Authority. I came on board in September. I have had a chance to meet a few of you, but not everybody. We're seeking authorization to enter into a maintenance agreement with Macro Automations Corporation for SCADA replacement. It is recommended that the board authorize staff to enter into a maintenance agreement with Macro Automations Corporation to replace the current supervisory control and data acquisition SCADA system. SCADA is a system of software and hardware elements that allow water organizations to enter water treatment processes, to control water treatment processes, water blending, chemical dosing, and pressure or flow set points locally or at remote locations. It monitors, gathers, and processes real-time data. It also sends alarms to the operators through the view monitors or cell phone when the system gets outside of preset parameters. The current SCADA system has 19 different softwares associated with it. Of those, 5 are still supported. 6 are out of support, and to bring them back up to date would require a purchase of 5 years back support. The remaining 8 are no longer supported. The 2019 Granite Fleming PHWA Facility Master Plan, Section 3.2 identifies the current SCADA system has some difficulties and needs to be replaced. The system freezes up at times, requiring rebooting to get reports or values to update. The computers are at the end of their useful life, and no new components can be purchased because the equipment is outdated. Replacement of the SCADA system has the potential for cost savings in purchasing of state water should the treatment plant shut down due to SCADA system failure. Specifications for hardware and the scope of work were presented to vendors. Macro Automatics Corporation came in with the lowest responsible bidder. The package will include new computers, new view monitors, and a cellular gateway. Also included is inductive automation, ignition software with reporting modules, history module, and alarm notification modules. The fiscal impact is taken as recommended. Will have a fiscal impact of close to $70,000. Funds will be expended from account 990990198.7002, funded by reserves for unexpected expenses. Do I have any questions?
Yes, Member Hernandez.
Thank you, Chairman Rollins. What is the transition time that you expect between the old system and installing the new system?
Approximately 2 to 3 months.
And what's going to be in place during this time?
For a while, at least a month, we'll be running the systems parallel to each other. So the old system will still be in place while the new system is sending us alarms and other information.
Okay. And on this contract, how many responses did you get on the RFP?
3.
3? Okay. Thank you. That's all I had.
Yes, Member Bouchard.
Yeah. Hey, Dave. Good to see you,
Hey.
man.
Good talking to you.
Good to see you. I'm not sure this is a question for you, Dave, or other city staff. Is this really an unanticipated expense or something we have a budget line item coming up later? Can we not include it in next year's budget and not take it out of capital reserves? It doesn't seem to be a huge PHWA expense, and it seems like it would be something we would want to just include in the normal budget cycle.
Mr. Burchard, I previously presented on this and stated that it was allocated out of the reserves. And when we present the budget, you'll see it there that I had notified the board previously of our intent to use the reserves to fund this as one of the items that the Fleming report had come up with.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions or comments from the board? Okay. So at this time, there's a recommendation to authorize staff to enter into a maintenance agreement with the Macro Automatics Corporation to replace the current supervisorial control and data acquisition SCADA system. Do we have a motion?
I'll move approval. as stated.
I will second it.
Member
Can we,
Hernandez. We'll go
can we
ahead
have
and do that
all
roll
vote?
vote. Member Hernandez,
Yes.
Chair Rollins,
Yes.
Member Bouchard,
Oh, there we go. Sorry, I had technical difficulties for a second. I'm going to abstain, and I'm only going to state my reason for abstaining. I would like to see us have a not to exceed number and have it come back to the board.
okay, thank you, sir. And Member Perez.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-1, and Vice Chair Dudley is absent for that roll call vote.
Thank you, board, for your consideration.
Okay, thank you. Now we're going to move on to item number 6, the Port Hueneme Water Agency operating budget for 2020-2021. Mr. Villafano.
Yes, and Mr. Peretz, if you could let me share the screen so I could share a PowerPoint, please.
Sure, Don. Coming your way in a moment. Okay, you should have access. Don, did we lose you?
No, okay, I'm getting it up here. Putting it share. All right, there we go. All right, thank you. It's recommended that the PHWA board review and adopt the proposed fiscal year 2021 PHWA operating budget and the proposed fixed and variable components. Okay, I want to, all right.
You can click slideshow, Don, the top.
Yeah,
or
I've,
from beginning.
you can't see it. Let's see. You can see it, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just not in
Okay.
presentation.
Okay, here we go. Thank you. This has been an unusual year for PHWA. On July 22nd, 2020, there was a rupture of the PHWA 18-inch water line from United Water Conservation District. This rupture caused significant damage to the intersection of Pleasant Valley Road and Perkins Road. In addition, it required PHWA to go on complete bypass mode and use only Cayugas Municipal Water District from July 22nd through September 4th. The cost of the emergency repair was $467,967. And here's another view of the repair work. You've got an aerial view, and then to the right, you've got the contractor working on the repair line. Each PHWA member will be responsible for their allotted share based on each member's allocation of United Water Conservation District supplied water. The city of Port Hueneme will take the lion's share with 54%. The Channel Islands Beach Community Service District will be responsible for 15%. Naval Base Ventura County, Port Hueneme, 16%. Naval Base Ventura County, Point Mugu, 15%. And a separate invoice will be forthcoming. PHWA started the year with a reserve balance of $558,969. The membrane replacement, we allocated up to 172,269. That will not be, that has not taken place, and that project is on hold at this time. The SCADA replacement project, which you just approved, we had budgeted $80,000. That came in under our budget. The arc flash study, I came to the board in April to award a contract to Ken Lucci and Associates to work on the arc flash study, and that is ongoing. That would leave us with a reserve balance of $261,700. And each year, an additional $50,000 is budgeted into the reserve fund. This proposed budget includes the following two PHWA capital projects that have been identified in the master plan condition assessment report. And those are, one, you just approved, the SCADA replacement project. And that was it was estimated at 80,000. It did come in less than that. The arc flash, which we just discussed and you approved at the last board meeting that came in at 45,000. And now the Oxnard-Hueneme pipeline, commonly referred to as the OH pipeline. This pipeline was constructed by United Water Conservation District to provide service to the following agencies: City of Oxnard, Port Hueneme Water Agency, and a number of smaller agencies. The United Water Conservation District Oxnard-Hueneme Pipeline Fund. The fund is used to account for resources and costs of operating and maintaining the Oxnard-Hueneme pipeline. The district delivers potable water via groundwater treatment to the Oxnard-Hueneme area. The pipeline delivers water for municipal, industrial, and agricultural uses. Resources for the cost of managing and maintaining the Oxnard-Hueneme pipeline are derived from customers who directly benefit from the delivery of the water. Expenditure of the fund shall be based on a common benefit or sole benefit and invoiced accordingly. The OH pipeline contractors assign capacity. The City of Oxnard, they take 50.47, and Port Hueneme Water Agency takes 42.45%. And then we have a number of smaller agencies that make up the difference on that. OH pipeline contractors well replacement charge. This is to replace the wells at the El Rio well field. And these are again proportioned based on water usage. These are water conservation district rates. The fixed costs. You've got, you can see that we had a slight decrease. All right. Oh, right at this, where was I? Okay, right here. At this point, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Mr. Martinez, and I'll still be running the slides, but Pete, please take over from here. Thank you.
Yeah, I got it. So welcome everybody. I'm Pete Martinez. I think I've met most of you, but for those I haven't, I'm the general manager with Channel Islands Beach District. So I'll go ahead and get started with the CIP project summary. Without going through every one, there's a list here of about 5 different projects, from the iron and manganese treatment all the way to the OH system emergency generator project. As you can see, there's 2 different fiscal years for cost comparison. So you can see this current fiscal year is just under $2 million for the CIP projects, just for United, who is our groundwater supplier. And Our PHWA share, as Don had mentioned earlier, is responsible for about 42.5%. So for all CIP projects in this fiscal year, we'll be responsible for about $843,000. Next slide. All right, so now a little bit about how rates are really put together, how everything's packaged up. So there's really two pieces. You have a fixed side and then you have a variable side. So as you can see, the top 4 lines here, that's how the fixed side for United is put together. Again, you have 2 years to compare to. As you can see, so last year we paid, this is a fixed charge per month. PHWA paid about $53,000, and that's going to be decreased by a little over 8% down to $49,000. Same is true for the variable side. So we're seeing a decrease just under 2% on the variable side. So that there is what we pay per, or what Port Hueneme Water Agency pays per acre foot of United water delivered. Go ahead, next slide. All right, so now back to the project. So this is a big one here, the iron and manganese treatment project. I know United has been to our meetings and given presentations on this. So really this is a project designed to remove the dissolved iron and manganese from the lower 3 aquifers. And this is especially going to be important during drought conditions, as I think we all know we're definitely headed that way. So the goal here is really to reduce the silt density index. And I know when Don gives his monthly operational report, you commonly hear this SDI. That's the silt density index is 1 or less than 1. So in order to run the membranes, we need to be lower than 3.0. So next slide. Okay, so here's this project here is actually going to be, they're going to issue debt on the project. But I do want to highlight some of the good news. So there was a grant received for this project in the amount of $300,000 the last fiscal year. And then recently this fiscal year, they received a Prop 1 grant for $2.5 million. So that's really, really going to be helpful in offsetting some of the construction costs for this project. So, hats off to United for receiving those grants. Next slide. All right, so there's another project that is called the Well Replacement Project, and this is really a while back. United initiated this asset management program to replace the upper aquifer system water wells that supply the OH system. So this is located in the El Rio groundwater recharge facility, and the goal here is to replace 1 well every 3 to 5 years until all 7 have been replaced. Next slide.
Pete, I'm sorry,
yes.
Can I ask a question, Chair Rollins?
Sure. Yes.
Can we back up 2 slides?
Okay. Chairman Rollins, I just wanted to remind you we have a 5:30 meeting, so if there's any way we can speed up the process, that would be helpful.
Yes, it
okay,
would.
Well, then based on that and you all having a time frame, I'll save my questions. It was, yeah, okay. I'll come back.
Okay.
Okay. What time's your meeting? What time do you guys
5:30. We're actually 4 minutes over that meeting right now.
Oh. Okay. Don, you know what? You can just go to the next slide. Yeah, we don't need to go through the projects. Keep going. I just want to touch on one more thing. Slide 25. This slide here. So this is a OH system emergency generator. So this also has a fairly large price tag, just under $1 million, but they also received a Cal OES hazard mitigation grant. So I know this was mentioned in one of the previous budget discussions. So that was achieved, and that's going to pay for 75% of this project.
Awesome, that's great.
And that should go online as soon as August or September of this calendar year. Next slide, Don. Slide 27. I just want to real quickly hit on the variable. Okay, so this is our other source of water. And that's our state water. So here's a look at, again, you have your fixed side, your variable side. And again, it's overall good news here, a decrease on the fixed side from Callegas, 4.5%, and then an increase on the variable of 3%. Next slide, Don. I think you can wrap it up. Yeah. Go ahead, Don. I think, yeah, you can take it from here.
Yeah, okay, there I'm muted. No, this has been a collaborative effort with Pete and city staff and PHWA costs to member agencies. Let's see, this is, okay, let's go down one more slide. Here's that. Here we go, plant operations. Total personnel costs in 1920 were $441,797. 2021 was $471,900. Total O&M in 1920 were $784,105. This year it was $1,415,571, and that's primarily because of the water line break, and then also the preparing of the urban water master plan. So the total from the previous year was $1,225,902. This year it was $1,887,471. And are there any questions?
Okay, do I have any questions?
Here's the final, this is the final cost. The total fixed costs for 1920 and 2021 remain the same. And the variable costs, the water rates, are going up approximately 3%. So the 755.24 is what PHWA will be charging our members. Now, are there any questions?
Any questions from the board? Okay.
So
yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, one quick question. We're looking at a 2021 budget, or excuse me, rate.
That's correct.
Oh, okay. So we already have a year behind us at this rate, so agencies should expect a true up.
Correct.
Of these
That's
additional costs based on their water use.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? So, okay. Well, then at this time, we have a recommendation for the PHWA board to review and adopt the proposed fiscal year 2020-21 PHWA operating budget and the proposed fixed and variable water rate components. Do we have a motion from anyone?
I'll move approval.
Do we have a second? I will second it. So.
Okay, roll call vote. Member Hernandez?
Yes.
Chair Rollins?
Yes.
Member Bouchard?
Abstain.
And Member Perez?
Yes.
Motion passes 3-1, and Vice Chair Dudley is absent.
Okay, at this time we have board member reports, comments, and requests for future agenda items. Does anybody have any of that at this point in time? Yes, Member Bouchard.
I'm going to make a very brief comment that I know we have a July 9th closed session meeting being requested from the board. I will be available for the open session items. I want to make it on public record that I believe I'm fairly well informed about what the closed session will be about. And I will not attend based on a conflict of interest, as my anticipation is that is 100% and solely related to a adjudication filing that has occurred, and want to make sure I'm on public record that I am not going to be part of that meeting to ensure that there is no conflict of interest.
Okay, thank you.
Very briefly, I'd want to talk to our city attorney. Kevin, I had planned to send a package out with your approval to the board members so that they can review beforehand what we're going to be going over, specifically that three-party agreement.
Okay, I don't have any issue with that, provided the board members realize that they may not discuss amongst themselves or confer to try to reach a consensus outside of a publicly noticed meeting.
Very good. I'm going to send you the package for a quick review, and once you give me the green light, I will send it to all the board members. Thank you.
Sounds great.
And how soon will we receive it?
The first part next week.
Okay, great. Okay. Any other?
Mr. Bouchard has his.
Yes, member.
Just really quickly, I want to really get you guys out of here. I'm sorry, I may have jumped the gun. I assumed since we had, and it's all public information, have been served with, or not served, notified that there is an official adjudication filing for the basins, that's what it was about. If it's anything unrelated to that, I will attend, providing nobody tells me there's any conflict of interest issues.
Great. And then you'd make that request to our city attorney then to see if there would be get some advice as to whether or not you'd have a conflict of interest.
I will always confer to city attorney or special counsel as to whether or not there's conflict. I think that's appropriate.
Okay, great. So at this time, we will adjourn the regular meeting for July. We're going to have a special one on July 9th, but then our next regular meeting will be on July 19th at 4 p.m. So meeting is now adjourned.
Thank you.
So now we move on to the next one.